Today we're making hash browns 3 ways. The first way is a traditional way, very simple, very easy to make. It's kind of a basic recipe for you, especially for beginners who maybe have never made these before from scratch. Maybe you've always bought them in the freezer section and then you brought them home and cooked them up. So I'm going to give you the basics for my first recipe, and then the second recipe we're going to make this lower carb. Not low carb, but lower carb. And the reason for that is I want to keep the texture very similar to just traditional hash browns. All right, so we're going to split it up and we're going to put half cauliflower rice and half potatoes. And we'll get into all the details when we get to that recipe. And then the third version that I'm going to teach you is how to make them with some sweet potatoes and maybe a little chipotle pepper for a little heat. It's going to be delicious. I'm Robin, as in Rockin' Robin, and I'm going to show you how to make all these recipes right after I tell you my chef joke. Why did the sea monster eat 5 ships carrying potatoes? Because no one can eat just one potato ship. Let's get started with our classic potatoes. So first thing you want to decide is what kind of potato to use. Well, you can use either Yukon Gold, which is what I'm using today, or you can use a russet potato. I think it's better to use organic. That way, you can leave the peel on where a lot of the nutrition is. But if you want to peel them, that's certainly an option. And here I'm just simply cutting off any little bad spots on the potato. And I'm using a box grater here to go ahead and grate my potato with use the one with the big holes. Once you grate your potato, go ahead and place it into a bowl of cold water. And we're going to let this soak for just a few minutes, maybe 5. Now, why do you want to soak the potatoes in water? Is because it's going to help remove the starch, which will then help make these get crispy. I'm going to rinse these for a little bit to get the extra starch out, and we'll let them drain. Now, this next step is super important, all right? We're going to pour our potatoes out onto, I'm using paper towels here. You could use a nice clean towel if you preferred. And then place more towels on top of the potatoes and give them a good squeeze or smash, just like you would the like button if you're enjoying this video. Go ahead and rotate your towels until you get a nice dry spot and just keep on squeezing. Once those potatoes feel pretty dry, then we'll head on over to the stove and start cooking. Since I'm cooking 1 potato here, I've got a 10-inch pan over medium-high heat, and I'm adding some avocado oil. If you want, you could use olive oil. Once that oil gets hot, I'm going to add a little bit of butter, and this is optional. I like the flavor of the butter, so that's why I'm adding it. And this is grass-fed butter. Then I'll slide the potatoes in ever so gently so as to not splatter that oil. And then you want to spread them out evenly on the bottom of the pan so that as many of the potatoes as possible is touching the heat. I'm going to season these up with a little bit of salt, a little bit of garlic powder, and a few cracks of pepper. That's really all you need. We're going to cook these without touching them. Don't disturb them now, because that's what's going to get us nice crispy hash browns. So just let them cook to 4 to 5 minutes before we turn them over. Now here's what we're looking for. You see that brownness, the crispy edge that's coming on these? Now we know it's about time to turn them over. Now I'm going to break the potatoes up into sections so it'll be easier for me to turn over. So you just kind of break it up a little bit and then just scoop it up and flip it over the best you can. Look at that, nice golden brown. Look at these hash browns. They are going to be delicious and crispy. And we'll cook these another 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, just depending on your temperature, until the second side is also crispy. Here's our delicious crispy hash browns. They're ready in just 15 minutes. Wouldn't these be perfect served up with a little scrambled egg and bacon? It must be time for chef joke number 2. So what do you call a potato that's been thinly sliced? Chip. Now on to our second version, which is a lower carb recipe. Now how we're going to achieve that? We're going to be using cauliflower rice, and we're going to still use a gold potato. We're cutting the carbs in half because it's about half and half, and I tell you, we're not compromising any flavor or texture with this. So we'll start off here with 1 gold potato, and I'm going to grate it up. Then we'll do the same routine as before. We'll soak it in some water, and then we'll rinse and drain to remove the starch. We have to dry the potatoes the best we can with paper towels or a clean towel to get most of that water out of it so they'll crisp up. I'd say I'd spent 2 to 3 minutes, maybe more, drying these potatoes. Now we're going to take some riced cauliflower, this is frozen by the way, and we're going to toss it into a frying pan, and we're just going to heat it up and just kind of cook the water out of it just for maybe 5 minutes. Once the cauliflower is warmed up and defrosted just a bit, then we're going to pour this into a bowl that's lined with a clean towel. Now pull up the edges of the towel all together into a bunch, and now we're going to squeeze the heck out of this cauliflower because we want to extract as much of the liquid as we possibly can. Easiest way to do this is just to twist the cauliflower into a little ball, and it just squeezes out all that water. And you know what that water does? It keeps our cauliflower hash browns from crisping up. So we want to get rid of it. Now we're going to place the cauliflower into a bowl along with the potatoes. I'll break up the cauliflower with a fork, and then we'll add the potatoes. Goes some finely diced onions, some grated Parmesan cheese, some salt, garlic powder, and don't forget you can get the written recipe below the video in the description area. And last, some cracked pepper. Mix that all together so it's well combined, and then we're going to add an egg, which is going to help bind it together. Give that a good mix until it's well combined. Now we're ready to cook this up. Now over at the stove, I'm going to put my pan over medium-high heat and add some more avocado oil to it. Once it's hot, we can add our little patties. So place a spoonful of this into the palm of your hand and shape it into a round patty. Then place the patty on top of your spatula and then slide it in gently into the pan. Continue making patties until you get about 4 or 5 in your pan. You don't want to overcrowd it because it makes it more challenging to turn them over. We're going to cook these for 4 or 5 minutes or until they're nice and golden brown. We'll flip them over and cook them another 4 or 5 minutes on the second side. When these are done, I'll place them on a paper towel covered plate and then we'll serve them up. Don't these look delicious? Now we're on to our third recipe, which we're making our healthy hash browns with sweet potatoes. And we're going to be adding a little bit of chipotle powder to give it a little pizzazz. So we're using 1 sweet potato here, medium size, and we're going to give it a nice little scrub, wash it up. And I'm going to cut off the ends and any little bad spots that I have. Now for me, I like to peel sweet potatoes, so that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to grate this up, and of course what else this does is it helps speed up the cooking time because the pieces are small. We're going to repeat the same procedure by soaking the potatoes in the water just like we did before, and then straining them through a strainer, giving them a rinse, and then we're going to dry the potatoes just like we did last time. Just give those paper towels a good squeeze. I'm going to place the sweet potatoes in a bowl, and then all we're going to do is add a little spice to it, some salt, garlic powder, and some chipotle pepper. Give that a good toss and we're ready to start cooking. Here's how I like to test to see if my pan is hot. I drop in just a little bit of water from my hand and it needs to dance in that pan and evaporate. Now the pan is hot, so I'm going to add my avocado oil to the pan, and then once that gets hot, we're going to toss in those potatoes and spread them out so they're evenly dispersed in the pan. And let them cook. Don't touch them. These will probably take 5 to 6 minutes. Don't forget to section these out when you're ready to turn them over, and look for the nice crispy edge before you do turn them. That way you're going to get a nice crunch. Do you know what these hash browns would be great in? A breakfast burrito. Imagine some scrambled eggs and some bacon, a little sour cream, and I tell you, this would be just fantastic. So I've got a favor to ask. I want to know in the comments which of these 3 hash brown recipes are you going to make? Are you a classic version, the lower carb version, or the sweet potato version? I hope you enjoyed today's videos. If you did, let me know by smashing the like button, and let me know down in the comments which one you're going to make. All right, we'll see you back here next week for another delicious and healthy recipe.